So, welcome to Walpole United WFC. Hello everybody and welcome to Walpole United with me, John Foster, MUFC. Got a real good show lined up today, a few good talking points. Whether or not everyone will agree with me, Connor, Stu, Anthony, I'm not too sure. I don't even know if people agree with each other in the comments. It's a real good debate about what should happen to our midfield going forward, especially with Hayley Ladd being out as well. So we're going to get to that, folks, in the majority of the show, or at least the start of the show, on Jackie and Jade. Before we do, hello to everybody in the comments. I'll put there's questions on screen shortly. Connor, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, not bad. Better than yesterday. It was freezing and chucking down with rain yesterday. So I had to get this in at the start of the show, John, because it was such an achievement. Me and John taking down 4 flags yesterday in the hailstorm that was the weather in Sutton Coldfield yesterday. So I had to get that in at the start. So I'm really proud of us there, John.
Yeah, and yeah, it was. It was shocking down pretty much the whole game, and then he just got 10 times worse when we had to go and get the flags as well. So yeah, not great, but yeah, it was a good day out yesterday. So that was definitely a nice highlight for us. Anthony, how you doing, mate? You okay?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, different scenery today. I'm up at my dad's in Newcastle, so I've got a funeral to go to midweek. But other than that, I'm all right. No, it's typical northern weather, but it's been dry today though, so can't complain.
Can't complain at all. Yeah, absolutely. And your next odds-on show, is that going to be a couple of weeks' time?
Yeah, there'll be a week Friday, obviously with WSL action.
Yeah. So we'll look out for that one, mate. Yeah, absolutely. Stu, welcome back. It's been about 3 or 4 weeks. How you doing, mate?
It has. Yeah, sorry, I've been busy. I've been really busy on the men's side.
How dare you?
I know. Sorry about that, but no, it's quieting down a bit at the minute. So yeah, pretty good. Buzzing after yesterday's result. I thought we played quite well. Actually, it was my type of game. I know it's proper old school football. No poncing about, get stuck in, and really enjoyed it. So yeah, looking forward to the show. Glad to be back. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Yeah, looking forward to this one. This show is right up your street, Stu. So looking forward to getting into this. Lanzo, John, Stuart, Andrew, all in the comments. Yeah, lovely. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's get started then. So let's just throw this question out there. The reason why we are kind of having this discussion is Hayley Ladd's out, so that makes a vacancy in our starting 11. The starting 11 isn't taken as read anyway, but I think if you speak to 90% of the fan base, they will all say that Hayley Ladd should start. So with Hayley Ladd now being out, it does create another space. So I think we're going to try and get into, should one of the best players in our team automatically come in, Jackie Gronin, or should it be a like-for-like swap and you play Jade Moore, who's a lot more similar to Hayley than Jackie is? If that happens, do we have to change the formation? Do we have to play 2-8s instead of a 6-8-10? What should we prioritise? So I'm just going to get into all these kind of conversations. So I'm just going to start the conversation with yourself then, Connor. How do you think Jackie gets into the starting 11?
I think she was going to come back in regardless of what happened over the international. Well, I know we're still in it, but I think she was going to come back in anyway against City, just because she's kind of been in and out of the squad with injury and for other reasons. So I would have assumed she would have come back in anyway. But I think if she doesn't play this Sunday, or she doesn't start this Sunday, I think that's a clear indication of where her position in the squad is. That she's dropped behind certain players. And I don't mean that as a criticism to her. She's just maybe fallen out of favour slightly with and again, and people misinterpret that as, oh, Skinner doesn't think she's good enough. No, it just doesn't necessarily mean she's right for that game or right for the system that he's trying to play or whatever. So, yeah, I think Jackie was going to come back in anyway. It's a shame that, Hayley's obviously gone off it. And we're all assuming here that she is going to be out. Hopefully she's back, but if she's not, it looked like it could be a couple of weeks. And I wouldn't rush her back anyway. So in terms of Jackie coming back in, we all know what Jackie can do. We know what a good player she is. My only concern would be not having that defensive midfielder there, because the way that Skinner likes to play with the fullbacks and everything like that, we need that defensive cover. And whether Jackie, Bo Reese, Zalem, whoever it is in that middle can do that, I raise question marks because we saw what happened at the start of the season when we didn't have Lad there. We were getting walked through by everybody. You know, although we battered Leicester and Birmingham earlier in the season, they had chances against us. Obviously, the Chelsea game and City, so on, stick out as well. But so it is a concern, but that's why you sign other midfielders like we have with Jade, who we'll talk about in a bit. But I think with Jackie, she comes back in anyway, and maybe Skinner's already had a word with her and said, you know, and been working behind the scenes on trying to mould her into that role. And, you know, maybe with Zellum as well, we don't know. But whoever comes in, obviously we're talking about Jackie at the moment, they just need to be able to understand that role. I don't think it matters how good of a footballer you are. You need to be able to play the role that you're being asked to do at the time. So I don't really have too much more to add from a Jackie perspective.
Okay. I mean, Anthony, something I've picked up on there, what Connor said is that, you know, he thinks that Jackie would come in anyway. I'm not too sure. I think if she did come in, it could potentially be because it's a cup game and it's not a league game, and potentially a second string team. And I mean that in the nicest possible respect. And I don't think we should go down that route anyway against in any City game. But do you think this was Jackie's time to come back into starting 11 with or without the Hayley Lad injury?
It's a difficult one, isn't it? To be fair, personally, I would play Jackie. She's one of our better players, I feel. But Skinner has his. It seems he has his players that he prefers more than others. It's difficult because obviously, if Hayley wasn't injured, she's definitely in the squad. We've spoke before how the goals conceded us is so much less when Hayley's in the team. So she's going to be a big miss. Do I see Jackie coming back in? It depends because I think if you do have Jackie back in, I think you possibly put Zellum CDM as not as in such, but the one that's not up as far, like drops back a bit more. But there's a lot of things he could do. It's tough now, isn't it? The midfield is so tough because what do you do? Because it's even with the centre of midfield, it's like the wingers as well. It's like Russo's been playing on the wing since we've brought Brune in. So it's like, how do you get the best out of your team and everyone in it? Because you want Russo in our best position. Obviously, you want Brune in our best position. But then you got the likes of Tooney as well. So there's even though we've got Ladd out and Staniforth out and more possibly not quite fit yet, which hopefully she's not too far behind, because Jade Moore is a player we're going to need, especially if the hamstring to Hayley Ladd's a bad one. Unfortunately, we don't seem to it seems to take a while to get news about players these days in the women's game. For some reason, it's not quite as straightforward as in the men's side of the game. But it's difficult, isn't it? He could do a number of things, couldn't he? Like if 4 is not concussed, maybe it was just precautionary, then you could have her CDM or centre back in Caldwell. So he's got options, isn't he? But for me, I actually would have Jackie back in. But if she doesn't come back in, it also says is like she's dropped down the pecking order. But it's long term part of it. Is there somewhere in the mind where Skinner's preparing for next season, knowing that Jackie might not sign? So there is a load of options, but I personally would start Jackie. But
I'm going to put like a slightly different spin on it. First of all, Norman, I think if Mannion is fit, I think she needs to be a centre back. I just think that we're so short at the back at the moment with recent injuries. I mean, potentially, I do agree. We might go very defensive against City and put another centre back in there, but I just don't think we've got enough fit centre backs, to be honest. And this is the reason why we have brought Jade as a Hayley lad kind of, not a replacement, but someone that can compete with her. My different spin on it would be, if we do bring Jackie in, then we haven't actually got a proper number 6 kind of player playing. So then you're playing potentially 2 number 8s and a number 10. Everyone would like to see Bo Risa in that team as well. Or is our midfield then far too attacking for the likes of Man City? I appreciate Jackie would be really good in that game to kind of break up that play and get stuck in. No one's going to get more stuck in than probably her. But for me, we could just keep it very simple and keep Bo Risa in there, keep Tooney in there, and then just have a straight swap. Lads and Moore, of course, if Moore's fit. So that would be, for me, the simpler option. Or swap Jackie with Bo Risa, or because they played a similar kind of position. I don't want to kind of, what we could do is just go too far and just kind of rip apart what we've kind of already done and play a completely different formation just to kind of get Jackie in, or be forced to play players out of position, i.e. by having Zellum as a CDM. And we know that Jackie, Zellum, Bo Risa, none of them are really equipped to be a CDM, especially against City. So that's another way of looking at it. But that would force Jackie not to play. Stu, which way are you looking at this, mate?
She doesn't come in for me. She's benched. Look, I know she's a quality player from what I've heard. People keep telling me. I've not seen it. I know she's had issues with injury. She's, suffering a loss of form, but I've just not seen it. So for me, you've got to bring in a natural CDM. There's no point at this late in the season tinkering around with formations. It's a waste of time. And he's got to, whatever he does on Sunday, he's got to start with a team that's possibly going to include Jade, because if she's got a hammy injury, even if it's a tight strain, you're looking at 3 to 4 weeks there. Because it'll just snap. If you bring her back in 2 weeks, it'll just snap, and so you've lost her for the season. So if they've got anything about them, they'll allow her to have this time off. If Jade can come in, which is what I would do, because then you are going to be playing Jade moving forward in all league games, then the potential to play a decent 4-3-3. If you want to bring Jackie in, you can do so. You can play her as a 10, so you can play Jade, Zellum and Bo Risa. Then you can play Jackie, and then you play Russo and Brun up top. But then that obviously means Tooney out of the equation. Look, you can only play 11 players in football. And if you've got to take Tooney out, you've got to take Tooney out. It's life. That's how football is. Football is ruthless. And the problem you got is fans, they just won't accept that. They don't accept the reality of what professional football is. And professional football is you play your best 11 irrespective, or you play your best team and formation for that game. And if it means taking a player out that you should never drop her, that's life. It's just you got to get on with it. You got to support the team. You got to trust in the system as well. I have this argument all the time with on the men's side. The enigma at the minute is Pogba. Does he play? Doesn't he play? Are we better with him? Aren't we? Look, I would say move him on in the summer. He's a great player, but at this point in time, he's not conducive to what we need to be doing as a starting 11. And here comes the issue. Here comes the issue with the women's game. And so you could bring in any player to play as a 6. But if you're not, I'm not even talking, you don't have to be a specialist there. If you don't understand the role of the 6, if you don't understand what a CDM is, you'll never adapt your game overnight. You've got to go away and you've got to study. You've got to look how the team sets up, how the team plays. Don't forget, your 6 is almost the conductor. It's the glue that fits the whole 11 together. He's the conversation. Well, she is the conversation piece between your 2 8s and your 10. She's a conversation piece between your 2 centre halves and your goalkeeper. She is the one that is dictating the tempo of the play. She'll get it, she'll move it, she'll get it, she'll hold it. So if we're under severe pressure, you need somebody who's got the intelligence to put the foot on the ball and take the sting out of the game, knock it 2 or 3 yards, then take it back and then progress the play. And if you can't do that as a CDM, you shouldn't be there. So You know, if people can disagree with me, it's absolutely fine. It's just the way that I see the game, and that there are occasions. You know, we've done it with Ronaldo in the past. That if it doesn't suit a specific player, you bench them. It really is that simple. So that's my viewpoint.
It all comes back to it, just jumping off the back of what you said. It's whoever can understand the role. Now, I made the point on Friday, and I'm going to make the point again today that we've beaten this City side with Staniforth and Bo Risa as our two. Let's just call them sixes for the sake of it, with our midfield too. So it can be done as long as players understand the positions they're being asked to play. It doesn't matter on the quality of the player. This is what I was saying at the start. It just matters whether they understand what they're being asked to do or not. The difference, I think, in that game, maybe compared to what we had at City in the league game, is we had workhorses in that Conti game when we beat them. We had, Carrie Jones, Ivana, and Kirsty Hansen, then we had Martha Thomas. So we knew that those players were going to help the midfield. They were always going to track back and help. Whereas when we played City last weekend, these are quality players, by the way, but you had Ella Toon and Russo on the wings who were they're not defensively minded enough to come and help and track back. So you can get away with not having a proper CDM if you've got kind of workhorse attacking players around, because they'll drop in and help as well. And almost it will turn into, if I remember rightly, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong if they go and watch the game back, when we beat City in the Conti Cup, it almost was a 4-5-1 when we dropped back, because Kirsty Hansen, Ivana, and Carrie just dropped into the midfield. So we didn't need a CDM as much because everyone just dropped into a flat 4-5-1. So it was fine. So if we do that at the weekend, I've got no issue with whoever comes in. That's what I mean. I think you can put Jackie in there alongside Zellum, and then Bo Risa plays. But then that raised the question about Ella Toon, doesn't it? Because I don't think she'll work hard, don't get me wrong, but I don't think she understands that role out wide enough. You'd want someone like Leah Golson out there and then Kirsty Hansen on the other side, because they will tuck in and help out. So it all comes back to whoever understands the role the best.
Yeah, I mean, Toon for me is not a wide player. Absolutely not. She sits in the 10 for me. But at this point in time, I think our most potent attack is a double or a duo of Russo and Brun. I think once Brun finds a feed, she's going to be a serial goal scorer for us. There's no two ways about it. So then you've got to look at everything else around you. So if you don't want to bring Jackie in, then you play Ella behind those two. And I think the link-up play between Boris, Zellum and Toon will be enough to feed Russo and Brun. I think the thing about Brun is you've got a really intelligent footballer there. She loves the 18-yard box. That's her hunting ground. That's her home. That's when she gets up in the morning. That's where she's having a coffee and a breakfast. Okay. Most people, I mean, we talk at the time of Mason. Well, I don't want to talk about him, but a player that we used to have in the men's team, and I argued constantly he's not a number 9 because he doesn't understand home comforts. And when you're a straightforward 9, that's where you are. That's where you live, and within the penalty box. And Brun has got that about her. She will come deep and she will take the ball. But if she plays upside with Russo, you don't need it. Russo can then start feeding her. And if you've got a good 10, it can be quite a nice, potent 3. And that's why I'll go back to it. You need a good, solid CDM that can start the play, start the progression of the game. And look, I don't know enough about this Jade. I don't know if she stacks up to Hayley Ladd. But if she's got similar traits and attributes, I mean, she's played, I presume she played under Skinner at Orlando before she went on loan to Madrid. And she was getting games at Atleti, wasn't she? She wasn't playing at Orlando. She was getting games at Atleti. And she's playing a good, solid, game for Atleti, then, maybe that would be the...
Do you know, sorry, Stu, just to cut you off
Sure.
there. Do you know what it sounds like, the conversations we've had already in the first 20 minutes? We're going back to something that I raised about 3-4 months ago, actually, of a formation that we could play. And I know that we don't want to tinker around the formations, but it's not much different to what we've been playing now. It goes back to the diamond that I've been mentioning all this time. Could see him go Zellum, Borisa, Jackie, and then Ella Toon at the tip of the diamond. And because coming in a defensive shape, they will just go flat. They'll just turn into a flat 4 across the middle. And that's what I mean. It all depends, because ultimately we don't know how long Ladd's out and whatever. But it all depends how long that's going to be for, because Skinner might have to adapt for 3-4 games. Now we've got Leicester obviously after that, and then I think it's Reading after that away. So whether he just adapts just for City or whether he looks moving forward, right, we might need to change this a little bit and go for a formation for the next 3, 4, 5 games, whatever. Because let's not forget, when we started that winning run back in December when we beat Brighton, we had 5 midfielders on, and it was just Russo up top on our own. We played Staniforth, Toon, Barisa, Ladd, and Zellum. So we had a midfield 5. So that's what I mean. Maybe he goes back to that because it's something that the players will be aware of and did. So maybe that's an option as well.
It is. It's not something I would do if I was Skinner. I'd be looking at where we are currently and how we're playing currently as a collective unit, and I would just stick to that unit. And as I say, if she's not going to be available for 3 to 4 weeks, then lads and old Jake can do that. Then for me, it's a natural swap, and it's a very, very easy swap to make as well. And then you can relatively keep everything else tight. It'd be interesting to see what he does, but I wouldn't bother. You know, there's an argument to say, look, do we need the FA Cup? Do we want a trophy? You know, for us at the minute, 3rd place is way more lucrative as a club and player attraction and things of that nature. So he's got that to consider as well, hasn't he?
Oh, Anthony, muted, mate.
Sorry about that. No, I think on the sorry, I put it on silent because she's quite loud on the phone. I think he's stupid if he doesn't go for our best 11 in the FA Cup. I just think, yeah, we do want to come 3rd in the league and that, but we don't play as many games as in the men's, so they should be able to play 1 game a week, and we don't even get 1 game a week sometimes. So no, I think personally for me, you field your strongest side, and I think it'd be stupid if he didn't do anything other than that, because no, we should, looking at our run in, yeah, Reading can be tough. They obviously didn't like the rain last week because they were shocking against Brighton. In theory, I know games aren't win on paper, but in theory, we should be winning all our league games now. Fortunately, we got Chelsea last game of the season. We always seem to defend like schoolboys against them for some reason and make it hard for ourselves. But no, I think as a club, being serious, you play your best team, progress to the next round of the FA Cup. Yeah, you could look at it, oh yeah, but we'll probably have to beat Arsenal and Chelsea to win the FA Cup. But you have to beat the best teams. If you can't beat them, then you're not good enough. I know even if you do get to the final, like, was it Bristol City got to the FA Cup final? Yeah, they got a good draw, but they still had to play Chelsea in the final and got thrashed. So you're always going to have to beat them teams if you want to win a trophy.
I agree with you, Anthony. I think because it's not a midweek game, I think we should be putting our strongest team out on this one. And at the start of the season, I might have said something different about playing some of our youngsters, but I think because it's City, because we're already out of the Conti Cup now, I think, and because we've got like 7 days to recover, and because some of them haven't played for a while anyway, I can see us going out there with the strongest 11. And I think we're in a very similar mindset to Stu when it comes to minimal changes. I don't think we need to do anything too radical, unless if it does do it on purpose, purely to kind of catch City off guard. So I think after like 25 minutes, I think you got Connor and Anthony that will probably play Jackie in this game. Me and Stu would probably just go for more of a similar swap. Go on, Connor. I see you've unmuted yourself.
Yeah, no, I was just going to make a point off the back of that. This is what I was saying earlier, whether he just picks it for just this game or whether it's moving forward. And that's what point I'm making. But it is worth noting as well, this game against City, we've played them 3 times already. Every time we've played them has been completely different, and it's been a different team. The first game, there was the red card, obviously, in the first half. And it was a bit of a frantic game, kind of got off the back of that. Then when we played them in the Conti, we were the better team. We beat them 2-1, and we looked solid in that game. We've then played them in the league, and we went there and set up defensively and went there for the point and lost. So it's going to be completely different again. And we've played 3 different teams as well. So in each game, we've played a different starting 11, mainly in midfield, funnily enough. So it is worth noting that whatever he does, it's going to be different again. And that's why I said that maybe a change of system is not awful, because every time we've played City, it's been a different starting 11 from them and from us. I think, I'm trying to think now. Yeah, so it's one each, and obviously, the draw. So this will settle it for the season in terms of bragging rights. So I just personally don't think a change is that big, because I think if he changes to a midfield 5 or whatever, Jackie, Borisa, Zalem, let's just say that's your 3, and then Tooney, whoever, further forward. If actually that can work for me, I think they're intelligent enough between the 3 of them to understand that system. If Staniforth and Borisa can do it as a 2 against the only reason I keep using that as an example, because it's against this City side. If those 2 can do it as a 2, then I'm pretty sure that Zalem and Jackie will complement that as well, providing, like I said, they understand the role. And I think they probably do now, because at the start of the season, Skinner came in, he completely different to Casey in the way that he plays. They'll have learnt this over training. Now, you don't learn things over 5-6 months. It does take a bit longer, but they've learned something by now. Doing this week in, week out, learning the way that he wants to play, they'd have picked up something. So I don't see a change being all that bad, because it's not going to be it's not a wholesale change. Change into a midfield. Stu says this a lot, and I stole his quote the other day on the show we did on Friday, that formations are just there for when you're defending. It's nothing more than your defensive shape. You don't attack in a 4-3-3. You don't stick to your positions. You have your little triangles and your patterns of play and so on. So ultimately, change into a 4-5-1 or a 4-2-3, whatever the numbers you want to put together, that's just your defensive shape. It's just whether they understand it.
I haven't seen my bank account swelled. Jesus, what's going on here? Crikey. There'll be a written complaint, Jonathan, coming your way in a minute.
I think that's interesting. Kind of, we'll come back to this shortly about if Jackie and Zelen play, because I want to ask you about Borisa then, if that's the case. But I think I think my mind still is quite at the moment. It's leaning towards it's leaning towards more Borisa and Tooney in that midfield 3. But 1, we haven't seen that combination yet. 2, is this a game where we should be seeing it? Let me answer my own question there. We do need a bit of bite in that midfield, and you'd like to think that more will give that. I also think that is Jade's fitness going to play a part? So should this again be the game that she should come back and start, or should she be eased in off the bench? So even though I'm kind of going towards Jane Moore over Jackie, I'm not blinded to the sense that it depends what's going on in training as well. And I always say this because it's true. If Jade's not fully fit and Jackie is, then Skinner's hands might be forced, even though he'd prefer to play Jade. He might think, you know what, unfortunately, like at the start of the season, he probably would prefer to play Borisa, but he couldn't because she was still adapting to the league. Harry the lad, for whatever reason, he couldn't play at the start of the season. So even though what he might want to do, he might not be able to do. And lastly, we've all said here that the FA Cup's an important game for us. It might not be the priority, but we should put out the strongest 11. Does Skinner feel like that? Or does he think, okay, this is a good time just to give a couple of players a run out? We don't know. So even though what should happen, I'm not too sure it will, but kind of just back to yourself, and I'll ask Ant to do the same thing then. So if Jackie and Zelem's going to play in that midfield, which wouldn't surprise me because they played there a number of times, not just this season, but in previous seasons, does that mean that you're putting Jackie over Borisa, even though Borisa's played really well lately?
Oh, John, why are you doing this to me? You're trying to find something.
Because you know the fan base is going to jump on no matter what Skinner does.
You're trying to get me to say something to clip me up, aren't you? So I'll be all over Twitter like, no, I think I get your point. I think they can all play because I think I don't see why it has to be Jackie or Borisa. We all know Zelen will start anyway.
I think a lot of people would agree with you there, by the way. A lot of people would love to see them pair play together. We saw it the other week and we saw that goal they created.
I think, like I said, I think he'll stack the midfield out anyway and go for a 5. I just don't know, and it goes back to something that we've all kind of said earlier in the show that I think Stu made it, put it more bluntly than I will. That it is football. You cannot start everybody, and maybe this is the game. That Ella Toon doesn't start. She doesn't have to start every single game. Whether he does just stack the midfield out. And when I say that, I'm talking about 5 across the middle with Galton and Hansen either side, just because they will work hard and will hold the shape more defensively. So whether that's, and obviously the pace going forward, then we've got the pace on the counter attacks. Whereas if you try and put Ella out on the right again and Ella out on the left and Russo on the right, don't really have that. We don't have an outball. That was the problem against City last weekend. We didn't have an outball. We could when we got the ball, we could never keep hold of it long enough to sustain an attack. So that's something we need to do differently. So I think they can play together. Jackie and Borisa and Zellum are very intelligent players. So those three together, the ball retention that we know Jackie has got, she's very good at keeping hold of the ball and progressing it forward. Like I said, she's got that bit of cutting edge that can win the ball back in a tackle as well. I think it can work. I don't think it needs to be one or the other. But what I will say is, if you play both of them with Zellum, I just don't think Ella Toon starts. I don't think you can play all four. I think it's my point.
Oh.
Yeah, but before I start over Jackie over Borisa, I don't think Jade Moore comes straight in. I think you've seen with Mark that he is cautious, and maybe that's why Jackie hasn't been starting games. Maybe he's being cautious on that part because she has been out. But for me, Moore doesn't start whether she's fit enough to be on the bench and come on for the last 20 minutes if we're trying to hold on to a lead. Possibly, but for me, Moore doesn't start Sunday. But Jackie over Borisa, I'm glad I'm not the manager, because this year he's got so many headaches. What he does with it, like, I think the midfield is so hard because you've got players. It's not just the centre, is it? It's like Hansen, Fuso, even Carrie Jones. I'd like to see both of them play, but then I agree. Like Connor says, you can't start all four of them. We know Zellum starts. So
does she though? I mean, usually.
She starts. For some reason, the manager they always seem to be the favourites. There was only that one time in Casey's last season where she did have to come off the bench a couple of times, but then she pretty much came back in straight away after a few games. But it's a weird one, isn't it? Because I know a lot of people aren't fans of Zellum, but then you see the stats on Sky and about her. I know people moan because she passes the ball a lot, and sometimes she does make mistakes that lead to goals. But her passing stats,
they all do. Anthony, that's a problem.
They speak for themselves, don't they? It's easy. It's easy, isn't it? If it's easy to blame someone that makes a mistake leading to goal, it's easy, isn't it? Like, you see people on Twitter blame Maria for the equaliser at the Arsenal game, but you know what people are like. It's so easy to criticise these days, isn't it? With social media behind your keyboard.
No one's perfect, but
no, exactly. And this is why we have these shows. Everyone has different points of view. I would, from a personal point of view, I'd like to see how we would do without Zellum in the starting lineup. But then it's like you play Jackie and Borisa, who's the one that sort of sits back because Tooney's not that kind of player. Obviously, Hayley Ladd's injured. Jade Moore isn't fit, so it's working what can do, and I think that's why Zellum starts. I just think she is a bit more, slightly a bit more disciplined. We've been a bit, but it is a hard one. But we saw Jackie and Borisa against Chelsea, and it was good. But Like I said, I'm glad I'm not the manager because he's got some tough decisions to make.
Yeah, I think just propping up what Anthony was saying as well. When we're saying, well, I can't speak for everybody, but when I'm saying that those 4 can't play, they obviously can. What I mean by that is I wouldn't want to see them because that means one of them's out wide. And I don't think any of them. They could do a job there, and I think if you're playing, like a Birmingham or somebody like that, you can get away with it because you don't need the kind of full high intensity for 90 minutes as you would if you're playing City. So that's my point. I think when I'm saying that they can't play together, they can against the smaller sides. Like I said, like maybe your Birminghams or, obviously Brighton run a bad run of form or Leicester, pre-good form. You can get away with it. But I think in a game against City, I wouldn't be trying to just cram all of your players in just by name. You need to try and fit a team that works for that game. And against City, like I said, last weekend, got absolutely torn apart out wide. Everyone blamed the midfield, but it wasn't the midfield where it was won and lost. Yeah, we got overrun a little bit in midfield, but Haleyland played that game. So if we're going to be critical of the midfield, it's all of them. It's not just one player. You don't lose the game off one player. You lose the game off a team performance. So, and I think we lost the game last weekend out wide. So that's what I'm saying. That yes, all 3 of them can play, Jackie, Barisa, and Zellum, but Toon comes out, or if Toon starts, then Jackie or Barisa come out. You cannot play all 4 of them. That's what I mean. I just don't want to see any of them pushed out wide again because it will not work.
I mean, the thing about playing City is in normal days, you'd play a straight 4-4-2 anyway, and then you would absolutely nullify Hemp and Park because those are their 2 danger players, and they're very, very good, both of them are. But modern day football, modern day fans don't allow managers to play a 4-4-2 anymore. They don't allow that kind of system because it's quite rigid. And funnily enough, Connor, that's the one place where you do attack. You tend to attack in a 4-4-2 formation as well as drop into a 4-4-2. As regards to Jackie over Barisa, look, I quite like Jackie. She's got very, very good control. She's got a good touch. I think, though, what I've seen of her this season, and don't forget it's my first season of watching her, I think she panics a lot on the football. So when she gets it, she's doing her twists and her little turns, but she kind of like panics. You need somebody who can receive the ball to feet, take a nice little gentle turn, and then do something with it, allow yourself to progress or pass it. I'm not seeing Jackie do that. Barisa, and this is, by the way, why I think Zellum plays. Zellum adds a calmness to the game. A lot of fans don't like a calm player. They hate it. Me and Connor used to have disagreements over Donny van der Beek, but Connor appreciates what I liked in van der Beek, and it was a calmness and ability to take the ball under pressure, hold it and deliver from it. And Zellum does that. But the problem that you've got is if you do misplace a pass, or you do overhit a pass, or you're tackled and that phase of play then leads to another phase of play that leads to a goal, that's just football. It really is. And this is the other thing that people forget about football is a lot of people will say, Brun, she rescued us. Well, she didn't, because chances are the ball came from on a Bache, into Zellum into Bruno, and then Bruno in the goal. That's how football is. It isn't just about a single player. It's not a single entity. It's an everything. So Connor and Anthony are both right. I think it is a very, very difficult choice because Groningen is clearly a certain calibre of footballer, but you've got to prove it still. It's all right doing it in the Dutch national team, or it's all right doing it at other clubs. You've got to prove it today, tomorrow, the day after. And that's the key element. So I think for me, from a simplistic point of view, I would keep it relatively similar, but I would make sure that whatever happens, that we address the wings, that we give whoever plays, a fullback, we give them an opportunity, we help them, because they are their critical pivot points for me. I know they're very, very good in the middle. I think it's Horton out. She's injured again, isn't she? Or is she back?
Who was that, sorry?
Horton, Steph Horton. Is she out? Is she back now, is she? She kind of got injured again, didn't she? She missed a game.
She didn't play last week.
That's it, yeah. So what I'm thinking is, if you can get at the City's back four, we've just got to put them under pressure. The thing is, football's all about knowing the game, and Connor knows what I'm like because Connor knows how I view the game, and the game's not difficult. You need somebody, and this is where a central midfielder is very, very critical to the overall play. You need somebody to almost view the opposition for the first 5 to 10 minutes. Don't take their eyes off what they're doing in possession, who they're passing it to first, who's their go-to player. So every time they get it, is it Horton? Is it Hemp? Is it what's her name? Is it Weir in the middle? Is it Weir that gets it? If it is, what side she taking it? Does she receive it back to goal? Does she receive it on the left foot? Does she receive it on the right foot? And this is where communication comes in a game. And then when we're in possession, you need to look at what they're like out of possession. Do they sit into a 4-4-2? Are they doubling up on the banks? And, this is what I talk about all the time about on-field intelligence. And you just need one or two players to work that out early doors, and it enables you to then start playing the right game.
I've left this comment on screen, and one of you can take it as well after me. Jackie needs to start because she's basically the quality that she's got. I'll get it if she's like the only player who's got quality. Because to me, that comment means that we build a team around her, which is fine if that's what we choose to do. If she signs a new contract and she's with us for another 2 or 3 years, then yeah, let's go for it. Jackie's going to be our main person. We build a team around her. But I don't know if it's the right thing to put her in just because she's a quality player. Because there's other quality players that we've got who may suit a specific style of play. So I do get it, Paul, and I think you could be right. I think probably more people would agree with you than disagree with you on that, but I think just because the quality player is not enough, I think you have to be a quality player that can kind of make sure that you fit in, or other people fit around you. Either way, I think it's just too close to call just for that. Anthony, do you want to jump in on that one? I mean, would you play?
Yeah. No. Quality player, but you got to show it, haven't you? You got to earn that right to start. If it's no good if you can't just pick player on their name. I know it does happen occasionally sometimes, but what does that show team wise if you're just getting in? She's a world-class player, we know, but if there's someone in the team that are doing better and they deserve to be in the squad, then unfortunately with the luxury we do have, you have to sacrifice players. So by all means, I don't think she's done enough this season to be like. I agree with you, John. I don't think she's done enough to like you get her in if no buts. I think there's people ahead of her that have been so much better. The likes of Tooney, Bo Risa this last couple of months. So it's now for me, it's not. You've got to find a place for her because I think we can cope without her. Game changers, isn't it? But we never seem to see this goal scoring side of Jackie for some reason in a red shirt. But now you have to earn your right. You can't just. We've got quality midfielders all over the place. So now
I think what Jackie's got going against her, and it's nothing about her performance. It's the performance of everybody else at the moment. They've done that 7 games, winning constantly without conceding a goal. Won Arsenal at their grounds, and Jackie wasn't really a part of that much, if at all. So I don't think anyone is saying that Jackie's not a good player or anything like that. I think it's just the fact that this season compared to last season, we've got Bo Risa now. We've got Lad who's cemented that CDM role. We've got Katie with great stats. We've got Tooney, face of the Lionesses these days. I think if it was like last season, yeah, I would probably agree with that. Jackie was she was our best centre midfielder last year. I just think the times are kind of changing. It's not Jackie's fault. She's been out injured, and I think the other players have stepped up. And unfortunately for Jackie, that might have dropped her down the pecking order. No fault of her own. It's not because she's played poorly. It's just the fact that the others have stepped up. And now she does need a run of games, 3 or 4, where she can kind of say, look, don't forget me. This is what I can do again. And then all of a sudden Skinner's got another problem. But at the moment, it's a risk putting I say it's a risk. Every decision's always a risk. But we've kind of proved what we've done, without her at the moment. And that's the risk there. All of a sudden, if you take that, that midfield 3 apart and you bring Jackie in, questions will be asked on that as well, won't they? Connor, do you want to change the subject a little bit on Stu? Sorry, I can see you taking a deep breath there.
Well, no, I agree with everything you and Anthony have said, actually. You've hit the nail right on the head. Football's all about, you don't walk into a dressing room and, you're almost demanded to play. There's been very, very few actual footballers that are able to do that. And I can only really think of the likes of Eric Cantona, who would be, would demand to play because that's his kind of stature. And it's been proven in the men's team that when the game hasn't suited Ronaldo, you're on the bench, pal. Whether you like it or not, that's where you are. There's very, very few footballers that allow yourself to do that. And I just think that you guys are right. You've got to be able to utilise Jackie. And I understand Paul's comments about being, a higher caliber footballer. I don't think I said this. Well, I never said she wasn't a high caliber footballer. I've been roasted over Jackie on more than one occasion, but I've never ever said she wasn't a high quality footballer. I think she is. But there are teams went up and down the country, and look at Reading. Reading have come from absolutely nowhere to sit, fifth in the WSL at the minute. They don't have a team of what you would call world beaters. What they've got is a team, a collective group. They know how to play together, and they're very, very difficult to beat because a collective group is. And therein lies your main problem. Just bringing in a single player because we feel it sprinkles stardust over the team. It's not always the right time. And just quickly finishing off, and Connor will agree with me on this because I was very, very vocal about Varane in the men's team at the very beginning of the season. Be very, very careful with the guy. And he's made his fair share of errors and has got off quite lightly with the criticism of McGrath. But it's this stardust sprinkle that people think Varane brings. It doesn't always work. So just a note of caution. That's all.
What you were saying about Reading is just saying they haven't, until they got thrashed by Brighton last week.
Yeah, sorry. That's right.
They hadn't lost since the 3rd of October.
Yeah, I mean, but there's no real worldies in there in that side, is there? Not that you would pick out. Not that I know of. Anyway.
Reading, not really. They've one of their better players probably got injured as well. Brooke Chaplin. I think she's got injured now, and you can't blame it on one player. They just weren't at the races against Brighton. But yeah, I agree with you. They haven't really got anyone like you think, they could get in United squad or the top Chelsea, Arsenal, City squad. So yeah, they just close knitted, work hard for each other, and Kelly Chambers is doing a good job there.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to change it up slightly because I like to have a good moan about international breaks. And another injury that obviously that could have helped our midfield, actually, obviously with Maria Torres going off. It's another, for a start, it's another centre-back because we don't know when Mannion's going to be back. We don't know when Millie's going to be back. Hayley Ladd would have been the makeshift centre-back, and now she's out. So with Maria out as well, who are we playing at centre back moving forward? Because we don't Diane and that's it. So we literally don't have anyone else that can fill in there. Now, obviously, we'll fit somebody in there. Kirsty Smith might slot across, and or Blundell might, or some. We'll find a way of slotting somebody in there. But I just think that's come at such a shame as well, because I think if you're looking for a like for like, we've had obviously Phil O'Connor on this show me and Stu did, and spoke, someone who's very close to Maria, knows her very well. He said on that show that Maria can play a defensive midfield role. So having Maria, we don't know obviously how long she's going to be out for, whether she's going to be ready for Sunday or not. We're not too sure. But that could have been another option in midfield. She could have been almost a like for like with Hayley Lads in midfield, providing we had Millie or Aoife Mannion there. But obviously we don't know when they're going to be back either. So it's just, we've got a lot of injuries to players at the wrong time. I think if we'd have had a couple of these injuries spread out across the season, and I think we've actually been quite lucky that we haven't had as many injuries as we have. It's kind of caught up to us now. We're now starting to see some players get injured, and it's, we've all been sat here laughing at City, almost going, look at the injuries they've had, and look how far they're dropping off. Now it's happening to us, and we're in danger now. If we get any more, Tooney didn't look great, with England. She went off at half time and only got 10 minutes against Spain yesterday. So we could run the risk of what happened last season, and overdo players and risk some injuries. So I just wanted to mention Maria because I think it's such a shame, because she could have came into that midfield and that would have solidified it, because she's actually got a good pass and a good long pass on her in particular. She's obviously a defender, so she knows how, she's got a defensive awareness. And I just think, again, it's just another kick in the teeth that it's the same positions. It's the spine of the team. It's, bar the goalkeeper and striker, it's midfield and defense, centre back. It's the spine again that we're just having ripped out, which is a problem.
I mean, if she's got concussion, if it is concussion, I can't see a bit. Well, she shouldn't be back anyway. You can't risk a player's health now with what certainly what happened with Koch yesterday, or Co, whatever you pronounce his name. He's Leeds, and he said we'll go with Koch, and you just can't risk it, can you? And for me, Maria's had a couple of concussions. I think Phil mentioned that, didn't he, when he spoke to us, Connor? Then it's something you've got to really consider. There may well be a chance that if you've got Mannion, who's maybe 70-75% fit, that's something you would risk. Well, with Connor, though, I don't like doing that, but sometimes you've got to step up to the plate and you've got to be counted. We're a professional outfit, and that's what professional players need to do. But with Maria, I mean, I called her one of my very, very first games was Reading this season. I thought she was great. I was raving about it to John and Connor, because I think she's a really good defender. But we seem to have, like within Mannion and also with Millie Turner, and I can't see Millie Turner being back after. Didn't she have a broken kneecap or something? Or a fractured kneecap? She had a neck injury, sorry. She had a neck injury, didn't she? Yeah. So I'd be very, very surprised if they would risk Millie for purely and simply for the heading side of being a centre half, But look, we've got to. There are some times where you've just got to suck it up. You've absolutely just got to suck it up and say, look, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it, and go out there and prove you're worthy to pull on the red shirt at Manchester United. And that's football, I'm afraid. I know I've spatted on about it a lot, but it is. But, Maria could also play right back, couldn't she, Connor?
Yeah, it is just worth quickly mentioning as well. Mannion's, I think, his knee injury, isn't it? I think she had a slight thing with it, which I think she's had in the past. So that's, I think, maybe why that'll be another precaution. Maybe you wouldn't want to rush her back as well. Same with Millie. Obviously, you just mentioned that head inside the game. Millie's a no-go for the rest of the season for me.
She will be. Yeah.
So for Mannion to come back as well against a good... We don't know. None of us are on a medical staff. She might be cleared 100% fit and ready to go. We don't know. But if there's any slight risk, I wouldn't even take that risk, because I get everyone's point. It would be great to win the FA Cup. We cannot have what happened last season and risk having 3-4 midfielders and centre backs out and completely fall apart for the rest of the season.
If it's what TJ says, it's just fluid on the knee, well, that shouldn't be an issue. A quick drain before and drain after, no problem. Get on with it, love. Come on.
I think Mannion will be back. It's been nearly 4 weeks.
No, she's got fluid on the knee. She'll be all right. She will. I've had fluid on the knee myself. Yeah, it's okay. That is. Yeah, it just needs a quick drain. So she'll. That sounded a bit half-assed by me, but I don't mean that. That's what it is. Fluid on the knee. It is a quick drain. So
until
she'll be all right.
Till then, she hadn't missed a game. But I think she'll be back. And you mentioned Maria can play right back. you've got options. You've got a few options on the right and left back, because you can put Bagier on the left. No, I get confused. Just ignore me. I'm thinking of something completely. So,
well, Anthony, you saying that, one of my thoughts was if we are struggling at the back, is Leah Galton could play there.
That was what my thing was. I was thinking, but then I was thinking Leah plays on the left anyway.
Is there an option to put on a centre half? I know she's only small, but is there is there an option to play her at centre half? Has she done that in her career at Barcelona?
We haven't seen it, but it goes back to our conversations about players knowing specific roles. So even if they don't play there, if they're intelligent enough to know that position, or if intelligent enough to know that role, then they can do it. And then
you've got to get your positional play right. As a centre half, it's all about positional play. You've got to get that spot on first.
Personally, I don't see on a centre back.
One of them's got to go there.
I don't know. It was just a question.
I think Mannion will be back. I think.
Oh, I hope so. Yeah.
And I think Caldwell will obviously fit in.
Yeah.
She was skipper, wasn't she, for her country, Caldwell?
Yeah, and so was Jackie.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to put some of these comments on screen. But yeah, absolutely. It's good to see everybody joining in the comments. Please hit the subscribe button, this, that, and the other. So yeah, just on that then. So there has been some other players that's been mentioned in the comments. So we will just shout out a couple of ones before we shoot off. And we'll do a proper preview near the time. But Fuso is constantly in the comments, so we've got to talk about Fuso. Is this the game, Connor, to get Fuso on the pitch?
Oh, crikey. I don't know. It's the short answer. I think. Do you know what? I'd love to see her get more game time, but and she ticks every single box in terms of what I want to see in terms of the workhorses and the pressure and everything that she brings. But my answers would be no, just for this game, because I think you need a bit more experience in these. Thing is, she's had it. She scored against them, obviously in the Conti, didn't she? So no, I'm going to say no and stick with what I would have said anyway. In terms of, I think Galton, she's got good defensive capability and she will track back on the left hand side. And I think you put Kirsty Hansen out on the right anyway, and you keep the midfield as it is. And I don't know where else Fuso would play other than that, because you'd have Brun up top, so or Russo up top. So I don't think Fuso fits in. Fuso could play a massive part though, because it's something I was annoyed at in the league game that we lost a week or so ago. That she came on far too. I think she came on with 90 seconds to go, and that's just pointless. There's no point bringing a player on for that length of time. They're not going to be able to. I don't even think she touched the ball. But if she can come on 60, if we're still in the game 65, 70 minutes, she can influence the game then. You know, if we're chasing the game or if we're level or whatever, she can attack that battle. And that's something we missed last weekend, the pace. When Kirsty Hansen came on, she gave that. She had the pace to run at defenders. And that's what Ivana could do. But I wouldn't be starting it purely because I want to see Galton out on the left and Hansen on the right. Because although they're not everyone's, well, Galton more so than Hansen, but they're not everyone's kind of go-to in terms of, as we were saying, the flashy players. They can do a job out wide, and like I said all along, we need to nullify that if we're going to beat City. So yeah, I'd like to see those two, and unfortunately that just means Ivana can't play, but that doesn't mean she can't have an influence on the game, because she would be a huge part to play, I think, late as the game goes on.
So we started the show, I think, because me and Stu saying no, Jackie shouldn't come into the starting 11 in this game. Obviously it depends on Jade's fitness, but just based on maybe our way of looking at things. Anthony and Connor kind of started the show saying, yeah, Jackie should be coming in. I think the comments are kind of mixed, probably leaning a bit towards Jackie should be playing. Connor, Anthony, Stu, has your minds changed throughout the show at all?
No.
Nah.
Yeah, no, me.
No.
We wouldn't be able to be very good at debating anything, to try I don't know, convince the opposition, would we? Because we can't do it. No one's convinced me just yet.
I agree with Connor on the Fuso situation as well. I think should be much better coming on as a game changer.
Yeah,
I'd agree with that. I'd agree. From
what we agree on, we'll end the show there. We agree on Fuso can come on as the first game changer. Absolutely. Thank you very much, guys. Really enjoyed that one. A real in-depth conversation there, just about that midfield battle there, and So thank you to everybody for joining us. We have got shows lined up as well throughout the week, so keep an eye on our Twitter page. As always, we put tweets out throughout the afternoon for our upcoming shows. We've got a schedule that I think is probably pinned to the top of our Twitter page as well. Keep an eye on our Instagram match day content on Sunday as well. So we've got all that coming up as well. So just shout out your socials, guys. Do start off with yourself.
So you can see me kind of down there. Oh, well, you could.
Oh, sorry, guys. Sorry, I'll
there I am. Feel free to interact with me. I say how it is, and people don't always agree with me, and that's absolutely fine. But and you could also see me on the men's channel as well.
Good plug. Anthony, yourself, mate?
Yeah, as Stu said, pretty much it's down the bottom, ATC Wilson. Give us a follow and that, and I'll follow you back and that. And cool. I'm complimenting Stu now. I think he's a very knowledgeable guy. I do like the way he talks the talk.
Thank you.
Nice one. Connie, yourself, mate?
How could I follow that?
So Anthony confidence.
The thing is, he doesn't just repeat himself like Benny either. Benny will wrap it and wrap it, but he'll repeat the same thing about 4 times.
I mean, my socials there. Just on Benny, actually, we're doing a show tomorrow with a guy called Tony Park on the men's channel. He's Mr. MU Jack on Twitter. You've probably seen him. He's got a whole heap of followers. His knowledge is unbelievable on the academy, and he's actually working more on the women's academy now and trying to get some stats and some information on that as well. But as I tweeted earlier, this week for United fans, we've got the Youth Cup quarterfinal. We've got an under-23s league game. The men play twice. We play Wednesday and Saturday. The Manchester Derby Sunday. So yeah, just make sure you subscribe to All for United, the men's side as well, because there's going to be a lot of stuff on this channel and on that one over this week.
I'll let Benny watch this one and see what he has to say about the comments as well. Thank you very much, guys. We will shoot off, and we shall catch you again very soon. Cheers, guys.